All right. So, I just got off of work right now. I had an idea because I want to try to fucking, finish up the storyboard as best I can since I already did so much. So I'm in the post event, and this idea, video idea that I want to do is just to go over like the weirdest parts of the post event. So I did the pre-event generally, then I did the event itself generally, and then the post event is what's left, and I don't know how far I got. It's been a while. But what I want to try to do to really power through this is just like touch on the craziest shit, which I'm probably going to forget a lot of stuff, but I want to just keep working on this since I already. So with the post event, let me just kind of just go generally into the weirdest shit with the post event. Well, actually there's a lot now that I think about it. All right. So I really got to get a good look at her at my Psycho X's Facebook page after all this shit happened, and that's when I saw like how insane she's like totally insane. Like all her Facebook posts were all just straight up lies. Like she's just a total liar and complete contradictions, and this whole facade of that she was presenting this total facade that was not her at all, and it was really pathetic and stuff, but it was shocking because it was like, wow, this is just like it's just shocking. So, and with all the witch shit, of course, is all that too and everything, and just a really fake, totally fake. So, and then, and I did go into the story, but I didn't finish it, of how I accidentally basically like tricked her to thinking I was like some stranger on the phone, and we ended up having like a month-long interaction where we were like texting each other back and forth a bunch because she didn't know that I was me, and it was really retarded. It was like you had to be really low IQ too. So she was just like, it was totally it was very weird. And anyways, and then so I was stuck in this town after that event, after the event. That's why I call it the post event. So the post event was like, I had to go do this 2-week job right after the event happened. So the event was like, it all took place in a week and a half or something. And then I left on a was it a 2-week job? I think it was just a 2-week job in Texas. And so then after the job was over, I had to come back to this town because everything I owned is here. And so I came back, and it was really fucking scary because anyways. So, but these weird things like that I was stuck here, like I couldn't go anywhere because the logistics of moving my shit, the amount of money that it would take to relocate and everything. And so I was just stuck in this town, which was really crazy because it's like a 2-mile radius town. And so, everybody knows everybody. Everything is a reminder. Like every time I drive down Main Street, I see the big all the fire damage. It literally looked like a fucking bomb went off. And I was just stuck here, and so then I was going crazy. I was stuck here, So, and then like weird shit started happening. Somebody drew like a really big witch symbol outside of my RV. I had weird shit like that happening. Um, and so this witch thing was, it wasn't going away. It was like, it was just a lot of weird shit like that was happening, and I was stuck here. And it was a really volatile situation because I was in fight or flight mode and I couldn't flee, you know. And so being stuck here in fight or flight mode without being able to flee, I was like super on edge all the time. And you know, so I ended up arming up, and fucking creating my own little it was just like really intense, man. It was really intense. And my boss kind of helped me out a little bit. So, and I was still running a channel, and it totally fucked up my whole channel because all I did was like talk about this. Like I was trying to figure out what happened, what's going on, and so it really like messed up the consistency of my channel. And then like I said, one of the things that happened though is one of my friends lives like 25-30 miles from here and has a big spread with a big house, 3 quads, like a fucking motorhome, fucking armed, fully armed, and like 3 or 4 big fucking dogs and stuff. And so I stayed at my friend's for, I don't know, like 2 or 3 months. I stayed there, and I would come into town and sometimes to do investigation, and there was a lot of weird shit that I found out. One time I drove my friend's truck. My friend had like a brand new big ass fucking truck, right? So there's no way anybody would recognize it as me, because everybody knows my vehicle in this town and shit. So I came rolling through in that truck with fucking tinted windows and everything, like fucking, like one of these $70,000 trucks and shit. And I drove by where their little compound was, the witch compound. And my psycho ex was walking around like totally fucking tweaked the fuck out, looking down on the ground and shit. And I mean, it was bizarre. And so then my neighbor, who I wanted to interview, but I haven't had a chance to interview him yet. He knows a lot. He ran for sheriff a few years ago. And so he's pretty tapped in with some of the law enforcement and shit like this, and he's got like he's a credible source for information, and he knows the guy was murdered. The whole thing with Todd Minshaw was a murder. The police covered it up. The police, well, according to him, me and him differ a little bit on opinions, because it didn't happen to him. So he doesn't have the interest in it that I do, And he's got a bunch of crazy shit like this has happened to him and is still happening to him today. He's a very controversial figure in this town. But he's very well known in this town. And he knows, like, so he lives a half a block from the witch compound, and I lived a block from the witch compound. And I finally ended up talking to him because one of my other friends, said that he was very approachable and suggested that I do talk to him about everything that happened. So when I finally went over and talked to him, this was probably a couple months after the event, maybe even like 3 months after the event, I finally went over and talked to him. And he knew Todd Minshaw was murdered. He already knew it was a murder. And then he started telling me information, and he was telling me that whole block that witch lives on, that my Psycho X was all very close with, they're all tweakers on that block, like all of them, like it is like Tweaker Central right there, which I didn't know because I just kind of keep to myself, so I didn't really, and I don't care what if somebody else wants to fucking tweak and be a retard, go ahead. None of my business. I just keep to myself. So when he told me that, then a lot of shit started to all of a sudden make sense. That all these people that my Psycho X was hanging out with, they're all fucking tweakers, right? So she hid all of this from me. Like, this was all a big dirty secret. So I didn't find this out until like 3 months after the big event, after the fire and the fucking, the arson and the fucking death threats and all this psycho shit. Then it all makes sense. And then I remembered, what was it, a month earlier, I drove by that witch compound and she looked like a fucking tweaker. My Psycho X is like, looking like a crackhead fucking tweaker, looking on the ground like she's looking for some fucking bag of meth she dropped or something. So everything started to make sense, when I started talking to this guy. His name's Mike. And I was just like blown away. I was like, I couldn't fucking believe it. Like, dude, no way. They're all fucking tweakers. Of course, of course. So then it's all starting to make a lot more sense. Like, and it's corroborating more that it was a murder, and it just, the whole thing, it was totally fucking psycho. So then I start talking to him and, more, and, but he's already given up on this town. Like I was like tripping out. Like when I was talking to him, I was like, dude, why doesn't anybody in this town care that there's a murderer walking around free? Like, wouldn't anybody care? Wouldn't people like be going to the city council asking what happened? Was this guy murdered? Because all over in the town, everybody's saying he got murdered, And the police were really the only ones, besides Sheila and all the suspects. The suspects and the police were the only ones saying otherwise. Everybody else that was talking about this Todd Minshall's death was convinced he was murdered. And so but if you have a town, wouldn't the townspeople be going to the city council asking we want to know what happened to Todd Minshall. Have you guys made any headway on the Todd Minshall? And even Mike himself, I told Mike, because Mike, this guy, he's my neighbor, okay? And he's the one that told me that that whole fucking corner is a bunch of tweakers. All those fucking people, self-proclaimed witches that my fucking stupid Psycho X is hanging out with, they're all tweakers. And I didn't know this. And so I'm like, holy shit, right? And so then I'm talking to Mike, and see, Mike has been trying to expose the corruption in this town. Like Mike, he's won 6 lawsuits against this town. And that's why the fucking cops hate him, the city hates him and shit. And they're always trying to fuck with him, but every time they've tried to fuck with him, he sued him and he won. Mike actually, this was probably 7 or 8 years ago. Mike was involved in a case and where he was required to go before the court, and he had mentioned something that the judge accused him of it being a threat, and as a result, even though it wasn't a threat, and as a result, the judge ruled that Mike give up his firearms and all this stuff, and it was totally illegal what the judge did. And what ended up happening is some big gun rights, a very big gun rights collective in Phoenix found out about Mike's case, and fucking within a couple weeks, there was 300-400 people came down from gun rights fucking activists came down from Phoenix and other parts of Arizona to this town and did a fucking 2-day march and rally all through the town. and caused a big fucking dust up with the city, local officials and stuff. So this guy Mike, he's a very controversial figure in that sense in this town. And like I said, he ran for sheriff and shit. And he's the one, he knows that Todd Minshall, just like I do. I know Todd Minshall was murdered. Like, there are people in this town that know everything that happened, you know? Even though this town can get away with sweeping all this shit under the rug and just like whatever. And so Mike has been like, he's been for many years, he's lived in this town for like 12 or 13 years. And he has, he's been like trying to figure out how to fucking expose these fucking dirty cunts that run this town. And so when we were talking about Todd Minshall's death, and he knows that Todd Minshall was murdered. He knows that the cops are sweeping the whole fucking thing under the rug and stuff. And when I talked to him, I was like, dude, if you want to expose the corruption in this town, I think that this Todd Minshall incident is the chink in their armor. And if you fucking start working this chink in their armor, it could blow the whole thing wide open. And when I told him that, he looked off and he was thinking about it, and he looked at me and he said, you could be right. He was like, you could be right. But he never did anything. And I even told him, I was like, dude, if you go to city council, I will fucking go with you. We'll go into the city council together and fucking demand, like, start asking questions. What the fuck happened to Todd Minshall? But I told him, I said, I'm not doing this alone. If I have somebody like you or somebody else, I'm down. But I'm not going to be the only motherfucker going into the city council demanding answers to the death of Todd Minshall that they fucking sweeping under the rug and shit. And that kind of flopped. And I was a little disappointed because Mike, if he really wants to fucking expose the corruption, I believe I'm right too. That I was right back then. That if people, even if there was, 3 or 4 people, or even just me and Mike, went in there and started fucking working the chink in their armor with this Todd Minshall shit, that it would start blowing some shit open in this town. But he was already very, because he's been fighting this town for years. He's kind of black-pilled, at this point. So, and like I told him, I'm not doing this by myself. I'm not taking on this fucking town by myself. And so, because of his disillusionment or whatever, and just kind of being totally jaded, because he's been fighting this town by himself for years, So because he didn't want to really take an interest in this whole Todd Minshall thing, even though he knew that the guy was murdered and the cops are sweeping it under the rug and blah, 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 he didn't really care to do anything about it. And that's fine with me. But, if he had, I think if he would have, like, listened to me, we would have fucking fucked some shit up in this town. But again, he's been already fighting this town by himself for years and stuff, so I can't really expect other people, And so, anyways, but yeah, he told me that whole block, that whole corner right there, all those people, they're all fucking tweakers. And then he starts telling me all these stories, like there's these big groups of tweakers in certain areas of town, including that area, that are causing him all kinds of problems. And the cops the cops protect all these tweakers. The cops literally protect them. And so part of it is that the main revenue that this town gets is from fucking meth and from like people on Social Security. And then these gem shows that come through here. And that's it. So poor people on Social Security is where the town's revenue comes from. All this meth and all these fucking groups of meth heads is where that's where all the revenue comes from, outside of the gem shows that happen once a year here. And so all these tweakers are all protected. The cops never do anything about him. And he was telling me all kinds of crazy fucking stories about fucking massive groups of tweakers living neighboring property that he owns and constantly breaking into his property, and he going to the cops all the time, and the cops never do shit about any of it, but the cops are always harassing him and shit, like, you know. And so anyways, so there's all that, right? And so, and then I'm still stuck in this town. Months and months go by. I'm fucking stuck in this fucking town, and I'm going crazy. I'm like, every day I'm getting crazier and crazier. Like, I was going completely fucking insane, dude. I really am lucky that I did not go completely fucking postal. I'm telling you guys. And that happens in this town. I've seen it. People go postal. And then now I know why. Because you got fucking death fucking Todd Mahdi tweaker witch cults out here that are fucking intentionally gaslighting people. And fucking killing people and all kinds of shit out here, dude. There's so much shit goes on in this fucking town, dude. I mean, the weirdness of the post event is just a whole nother, like, fucking epic long story of all this crazy shit. And so I'm stuck here and fucking but I was able to stay at my friend's for a couple months. But I don't like to put other people out, and you know. And so I finally fucking got my shit figured out and came back into town after a couple months, and then I did end up talking to a couple of her witch cult tweaker friends. And it was funny because even they were saying that, even some of them were saying that Todd Minshaw was murdered. But they said that it was some Mexican guy. They were trying to blame it on some Mexican guy shit. Like, it's fucking total fucking drama, retarded drama bullshit. It's insane. So anyways, so then I finally like got out. I had an opportunity. My boss had some shit going on, and he's got fucking warehouses. He's got different locations in a few cities in Arizona, and so he needed me to relocate, and because he had some issues going on with a couple of his warehouses in another part of Arizona, and as soon as that, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, I fucking got my shit, and I was fucking gone as soon as possible. I was like, get me the fuck out of here. So it was a real blessing for me, that was, and so I relocated into another part of Arizona far away from the town, and then I ended up working out there for like 7 months, okay? And so then during that time, I'm still trying to, you know, like, any information I can find out, I'm always trying to keep a pulse on what's happening in this little town, and what's my Psycho X up to, you know, because a lot of my work is here, you know. My boss owns fucking, you know, my boss does a lot of big shit in this town during the gem and mineral shit, and so I'm kind of beholden to this area, so I need to know what the fuck is going on with this witch cult and this and that, like, what is going on with all this stuff, right? Because my job is, you know, this is part of my job. I have to be out here during certain times of the year, you know, unless I find another job or something. So that was one of many reasons why I was still like trying to figure out what is all this shit, what is going on. And so here's a couple interesting stories. So there was a period where I had to come back into this town, and so I was hanging out over at my buddy's. And he helps people out every once in a while. Okay, so there was this guy over at his house that my buddy had been trying to help out for the last few, 6 months or so, because he's on hard times and fucking trying to kick meth. He was kicking meth and all this shit and trying to get his life figured out and stuff. Okay. And so I'm hanging out over at my buddy's, and this guy's there, and some of this stuff that he was talking about piqued my curiosity, especially when he was talking about how he used to be involved in the meth scene in this town. So I started asking him some questions, like if he knows who my ex-girlfriend is. And then and I ended up even showing him a picture of her, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I know who she is, but my wife knows her. I don't know her. I just know who she is, but my wife knows her." Which the weird thing is, when all this went down, I had asked his wife if his wife knew her, and even showed her a picture of my psycho ex, and she's like, "No, I don't know her." So she lied to me, right? This is what meth heads do and all this stuff, right? And so then I started telling this story to this guy about Todd Minshall and all this stuff, okay? And so here's a couple interesting things now, and he's not lying when he's talking about this. So one of the first things he said is that he actually saw a picture of Todd Minshall's body, okay? So he tells me this story, Todd Minshall's dead body. So at the time, this guy was in a rehab about 30 miles from this little town, in a fucking, a inpatient rehab, okay, because he was mandated by the fucking courts. And so he's in this rehab with all these other guys. And he said one of the guys that was in the rehab with him had a picture of Todd Minshall's dead body on his phone and was showing it to him. And he said that he remembered that he was tripping out because the body was so decomposed, and it had only been like dead like a couple days. And he was shocked at how decomposed the body was, only having been recently dead. And so one of these other tweakers somehow got a picture of Todd Minshall's dead body, right? So that's weird, right? So then we're talking more about this, right? And then he starts saying, so he has experience in the meth scene in this town, because he was deep in the meth scene for like 3 years in this town. Like, he was deep. He was one of the fucking heavy hitters deep in the whole mix of the meth scene here. And he told me, this is what he told me based off of his experience in the whole meth scene, is that the cops are definitely in on the distribution of meth, okay? That they are definitely part of the meth distribution in this town, okay? Now, I believe him, and this is why. So you have to start connecting all these dots and putting all these puzzle pieces together. So all those people that my psycho ex was hanging out with, all those self-proclaimed witches on that block, they're all fucking tweakers, okay? So, and they killed this guy, Todd Minshall. He was a tweaker too. He lived there with him and blah, blah, blah. Okay? So why would the cops be not interested in solving this guy's death if he was murdered? Well, if they're all fucking tweakers, and the cops protect the tweakers because of revenue in this town, and they fucking kill one of these tweaker people, and the cops are involved in the meth distribution, well, see, by solving that guy's death could draw attention to the cops' fucking participation in the meth distribution in this town. So this guy, who is a 3-year fucking veteran tweaker in this town, says the cops were definitely involved in the distribution of meth, okay? Now, if you talk to my friend Mike, he doesn't think that's true. But I do. I think Mike is, because Mike ran for sheriff and this and that, I think Mike is a little naive about this. I think it easily goes that deep in this town. Much deeper. Okay, but anyways, whatever. So all this is very interesting to me, okay? So then a couple months later, I'm talking to this woman who is close friends with my buddy. My buddy, the same guy. The same buddy, not Mike, this other buddy of mine who was helping this tweaker guy. Okay? So I'm talking to my buddy one night and talking about all this shit, right? And his friend is there with him, and I'm on speaker. And his friend is listening to me explain, go into depth on all this shit with my Psycho X. And so my buddy's friend wants to talk to me. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And my buddy says, yeah, my friend knows some shit, right? And so I'm like, okay. And so then I'm talking to my buddy's friend. And my buddy's friend starts explaining a bunch of stuff to me. First of all, this person was saying that everything that I'm saying is totally true. It's real. I'm not going crazy. Which was like, wow, okay. Okay. This is what I mean. There are people that know this, dude. And these are not like crazy tweakers. These are fucking reputable people in this town that are telling me that everything that I'm saying is true. It really happened, and I'm not going crazy. And I'm like, okay. So then this person proceeds to tell me experiences that they've had in direct relation to my incident, the whole event and everything, okay? And says that the dark underbelly in this town, there is definite, and what they're doing is they're recruiting younger girls. They're recruiting young women, like my Psycho X, okay? They're recruiting them, and they're using drugs and to lure them in, and then recruiting them. And that part of the recruitment process is that these young gals, these young ladies that they're getting, they get them to participate in the violence, like, to some level. So the whole group of them has to participate in the violence and shit. That way, once they're involved and they're doing that, then they prove themselves like trustworthy, so they can't rat. Now that they're participating, they can't rat out the criminal element, the career criminal fucking dark underbelly element. So they get them to participate in the violent aspect of all this criminal shit they're doing. And that's how they prove themselves. And that's how they entrap them. So they're entrapping them, okay? So this person is telling me all this. And then the person tells me that one of these young girls approached them, trying to escape, get out, because they had gotten deep into this thing that's going on out here, and they wanted out. And so they were confiding in this person, and because they wanted this person to help them get out of this cult thing, this fucking thing. And the person explaining it to me said that they rejected him and said nope, because that person doesn't want to be the next dead body they find out in the desert. Okay? And then the person goes on and says there was another body recently found, and it's the same people did it. The same people. And it was a young Mexican dude. Now remember I told you I talked to one of these witch cult fucking cunts and was picking their brain and asking them questions and asking them if they knew my Psycho X, and they were like, yeah, and asking them if they knew about Todd Minshaw and the death of Todd Minshaw, and then they were telling me, yeah, Todd Minshaw was murdered, and they were saying, people think it was Sheila, which that's who it was, but it was them, but they're saying it was this Mexican guy and stuff. Well, now this person's telling me that they killed another person, a young Mexican guy, and that's who. Anyways, so this is real shit, And this person that was telling me all this is fucking scared. Like they want to remain anonymous because they don't want to have anything to do with any of the shit going on in this town. And see, that's another thing. you got so many people in this town that they know that there's shit like this going on here, and they're afraid. They're afraid because they don't want to be the next person dead out in the desert. And so they look the other way. They don't ever speak out against it. Okay. And so anyway, and so that's what this person was like, wants to remain completely anonymous. But they told me that this shit is really happening. What happened to me is real. I'm not going crazy. And you know, I needed to hear that. Because you start to think you're going crazy. Because how could all this really be happening? You know? I mean, that's why I'm doing this storyboard, because the story is so fucking unbelievable that nobody will believe it. And see, that's the thing, dude. You know, that's why, like, this is career criminal shit. These are not just fucking like people that just decide, oh, I think I'm gonna do some criminal activity. These are people that are very well schooled in all of this. Like, they know how to kill people and get away with it. They've been doing it for years. And they know how to recruit young people and young females and stuff, and to get them entrapped in these situations. They know how to command a group of young, naive people to do all their dirty work and to do all this shit and kill people, like Todd mentioned. This is what goes on here. And the weirdness never ends. Like, you know, like, what was it? A month ago, my Psycho X, like, this is the latest news, because I try to keep a pulse on what's going on, because I gotta watch my fucking six. And a fucking, like, 100% credible source told me this about a month ago. That she was in town, she was only here like a handful of days, and these cockroach fucking Todd Mahdi fucking witch cult fucking tweakers, friends, that these are the people she's been associating with. These are the people she chose to, like, she thought was clever. They fucking pulled guns on her, and she fucking hightailed it out of here, like, immediately. Boom, and she was gone. Like, that just happened a month ago. You know, like, this is all real. All of this is real. This is not me with the overactive imagination and all this stuff. And these little pieces of the puzzle, they just keep coming. And I think eventually this is going to get exposed. Eventually this shit is going to get exposed. Again, like when I'm talking about my friend Mike. Dude, that's why I want to interview him. Dude, this guy Mike, he knows there is a ton of insane shit going on in this town. People are getting murdered. People are getting arson committed against them. Death threats. All this kind of shit is like a fairly regular thing out here, which is why the majority of the town is so scared that they just look the other way. They don't talk about it, blah, blah, blah. Or if they do, they're really scared and they want to remain anonymous and, you know, all this stuff. This is just what goes on here. This is fucking, like, this is madness. And I don't get involved in that kind of stuff. Like, I haven't, you know, I don't fuck around. Like, I am just a boring person. I'm the most boringest sons of bitches you'll ever meet. I go to work. That's it. I work. I come home. I mind my own business. I don't mix in with fucking Todd Mahdi death cult tweakers or any of those kind of people. I keep to myself. I've learned the hard way. I learned how to stay out of trouble, which is another reason why this is so bizarre that this happened to me, because it would make sense if I were involved in something that would, as a result, you know, these things would, that makes sense. But when I'm just minding my own business, I don't do any drugs, I don't drink, I don't do anything, I keep to myself, I hang out with only chill people and reputable people, I don't fucking get mixed in with fucking retards and stuff. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, boom, like fire, brimstone, murder, fucking death threats, bondage straps, whips and chains, fucking like, everything like just boom, like all exploded, just constant, like it's fucking insane. They fucking tried to kill me, dude. This is what people won't believe. The whole point is to fucking kill me, man. That's what the whole fucking thing was about, was to kill me. But see, the thing is, they can only kill, like, very elderly. If a person is very elderly, super elderly, they can kill them and get away with it. Or if somebody's strung out on meth, they can kill them and get away with it. You know, any type of person like this, someone in their fucking mid-90s or, you know, mid-80s, who's like totally like, you know, elderly with all kinds of comorbidities and stuff, they're killing those people. People that are strung out on meth or heroin or things like this, they're killing them. And so they used those same tactics on me. But I'm like a 50-year-old fucking totally fucking straight edge, you know, a former fucking home bum. Like, I lived on the street for 10 years, fucking, you know, I've been abstinent from all drugs and alcohol for 23 years. You know, like, someone in my position, it'd be a lot harder for them to kill. And so, but that's what the whole point was, is to kill me. That's exactly what the whole fucking thing was. They may be still trying to kill me and figuring out how to kill me. But it's not going to be like killing a fucking 90-year-old or killing someone who's strung out on crystal meth. Like, you know, there's a difference between a person who's strung out on crystal meth and a person who is totally straight edge that doesn't do any drugs at all or drink. The mentality is a lot different. Like, I am, compared to a tweaker, I am super aware. I am hyper aware of my surroundings. I am very, very highly aware, highly sensitive, highly in tuned to my surroundings and what is going on. Whereas someone who's like strung out on drugs and shit, like, they're fucking like, they really have no idea what's going on. That's why they're easy to kill. Or like a 90-year-old, someone who's like going senile and shit. Like, compared to that type of person, I am extremely aware of what's going on, my surroundings, what's going on with me, etc., etc. So when they tried to kill me, they're used to killing people like that. And they it's like a common thing. Like, they're killing them, they kill them, like, whatever. It's not a big deal to kill these people. So when they tried to, I think what it is, because I used to have a long beard and long hair and shit like this, they just assume I must be like a drug addict, which I get that all the time. I don't get it as much since I cut my beard and my long hair. But when I had long hair and a beard, dude, I'd have people all come up to me all the time asking if I know where to score some heroin or this and that. And I'm like, I've been out of that circle for fucking 2 decades, bro. I have no idea. I'm the last person you want to ask where to get some fucking heroin, bro. But you see, it was very common that people would think that of me, which was hilarious. That's why I liked having a long beard and long hair, because people make the most retarded assumptions about you, like, you know, based off of appearance, which is retarded. And so I think that's what happened is that they just assumed, because I have a long beard and long hair and shit and wear fucking old torn up Metallica shirts or whatever, that I do drugs and party and this, and those people are easier to kill because, you know, when you're stoned all the time and drinking, getting drunk every fucking weekend, Friday through Monday, you're drunk, this and that and shit like this, and you know, dabbling in meth and all kinds of stuff. Like, those people are a lot easier to kill than somebody who's been completely fucking stone cold abstinent for 23 fucking years. And so they tried to use all these tactics on me, and I was unfazed by it. I mean, outside of like how shocking it is to encounter a Todd Motti fucking death cult of weird, retarded, like, satanic witches and stuff that are just like, what? These people fucking completely retarded, you know? They're like basically just like the equivalent of total retards. Only they get away with killing people and stuff, you know? Because they're mixed in with all the fucking cartel and the fucking and the meth distribution, and the cops are all in on it, all the way up to the local government here and stuff. And yeah, and the whole fucking town, all these people, there's a ton of people in this town that know there's all this shit going on, and they always look the other way. They never don't cause any waves. They don't ever say anything. They always keep their mouth shut. They don't, because they're afraid. They're afraid they're going to be the next person that's found dead out in the fucking desert. This is this town. This is literally the way this fucking town has functioned for decades. This town is built on Indian burial graves. You know, you want to go back into kind of like the woo-woo side of this story. This town is built on Indian burial sites, so that's a problem. There's a lot of problems with that. You know, you got the whole magic circle fucking area out in the desert, fucking, you know, a handful of miles out in the desert, which is a witch. It's a satanic fucking witch gathering. You know, you got problems out here. You got crazy shit going on out here. And if you were to do even just a minimal amount of research on this town is one of the main spots where criminals go to hide. If a person is a fucking hardcore criminal that wants to hide, this is where they come, to this town. No shit. I'm not kidding at all. This is not me exaggerating or anything. This is like total truth, dude. So anyways, there's like a brief kind of like quick brief general overview of the post event. So we'll just leave it at that for now. I mean, this is a long fucking video.